Richard Dean Anderson's story is one of adventure, risk, heartbreak, and resilience. He was not just another Hollywood actor chasing fame, he was a man shaped by early struggles, fearless stunts, and a determination to do things his own way. In 2013, when Anderson walked away from projects worth $30 million, the industry was stunned. At 63, he was still in demand. Studios wanted him back, fans still adored him, and opportunities kept knocking. But Anderson had a secret. Something had happened to him during his years as MacGyver, something so deep and painful that he never revealed it publicly. People close to him say it was this unspoken wound that explained why he chose silence over stardom. He was born in January 1950 in Dawson Creek, British Columbia, on a freezing winter day. Just 3 days later, his parents packed up their newborn and crossed the border into the United States, settling in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Richard grew up as the oldest of 4 brothers in a family where creativity and passion flowed like air. His father, Stuart, wasn't just a school teacher, he taught English and drama during the day and played jazz bass at night. His mother, Jocelyn, was a talented artist who painted and sculpted. Their home was filled with the sound of jazz, the smell of paint, and the energy of stage lights. As a boy, Richard would quietly sit in the back of high school theaters, watching his father rehearse plays. He once saw actors using Twinkies as stand-in birthday cakes during rehearsal, and that small moment stuck with him. He thought that any job that came with free Twinkies was worth having. Growing up in Roseville, a suburb of Minneapolis, Richard's life revolved around 2 things: ice hockey and imagination. He wasn't just a fan of the sport, he was obsessed. He was so good at hockey that even Stan Mikita, one of the sport's legends, praised his skills. Richard dreamed of going professional, but life had other plans. At 16, he broke one arm during a violent game collision. Just 3 weeks later, he broke the other arm. The second injury was brutal, requiring surgery, metal pins, and plates. Doctors even warned he might lose mobility forever. At the time, scouts were already watching him, and his future seemed bright. To have it ripped away overnight was devastating. Hockey wasn't just a sport to him, it was his identity. Without it, he spiraled into depression. The long hospital stay was filled with pain and silence, but it was in that silence that something new was born. He started paying closer attention to his father's plays. He joined drama clubs and even performed on stage with casts still on his arms. Acting became a lifeline, giving him something to hold on to while everything else was slipping away. Slowly, the fire of performance took root in him, a flame that never went out. Richard's childhood wasn't easy financially. His father's teaching job barely covered the basics, and sometimes the music gigs helped, sometimes they didn't. The 4 boys learned early how to stretch every dollar. Richard delivered newspapers to help the family, and by the time he was 10, he already had a daring spirit. That year, he tried biking from Minneapolis to Duluth, a 100-mile journey. He made it halfway, about 50 miles, before his small body gave out and he turned back. But he didn't see it as failure. Even as a child, he had the guts to attempt something most adults wouldn't dare. By 17, his appetite for adventure had only grown. He embarked on a cross-country bicycle ride covering over 5,600 miles, traveling from Minnesota through Canada and all the way to Alaska. For the last 33 days, he rode completely alone with no support team, just him, his bike, and harsh weather. Earlier that same year, he had already faced a terrifying snowstorm in Taos, New Mexico, where winds reached 105 miles per hour and stranded him in whiteout conditions. He survived, and instead of slowing down, it only pushed him to keep going. Richard learned scuba diving, bought motorcycles, 4 in total, including a Harley-Davidson, and pushed himself into extreme stunts. He jumped off school roofs for fun, crashed dirt bikes, and still got up smiling. Once, he dove off a board, hit his head, and needed stitches, but he didn't stop. During a bitter Minnesota winter, he even tried to set a world record by living in an igloo he built himself. He stayed inside for 3 days and nearly froze to death, but to him, it was just another challenge. Pain didn't scare him. Failure didn't scare him. What scared him was standing still. In 1976, he made one of the biggest leaps of his life. He left Ohio University and moved to Los Angeles with no guarantees, just a dream and the uncertainty of survival. He took whatever jobs he could find. One of the strangest was working with whales at a marine show, where he learned how to perform under pressure in front of big audiences. Before that, he had sharpened his acting skills in New York City's theater scene. Every odd job, every stage, every failure was building him up for something bigger. That same year, everything changed. Richard landed his first big break on General Hospital, cast as Dr. Jeff Webber. He stayed on the show for 5 years, appearing in 611 episodes, just as the series expanded from 30 to 45 minutes in 1976. By 1979, General Hospital had become the #1 daytime drama in America, and Anderson rode that wave of success. He acted alongside stars like Denise Alexander and Stuart Damon, and when he left in 1981, he was no longer just another soap actor, he was someone Hollywood had started to notice. From there, he kept moving forward. He appeared in The Facts of Life in 1981, Today's FBI, and even The Love Boat in 1982. These weren't random gigs, they were stepping stones, carefully chosen to show his range. But success wasn't guaranteed. Between 1982 and 1984, he starred in 2 CBS shows, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers and Emerald Point NAS, but both were cancelled after just 1 season. For a rising actor, back-to-back cancellations could have ended a career. But Richard didn't quit. He studied what worked and what didn't, learning from every setback. Then in 1985, his life changed again. He auditioned for MacGyver, and something unusual happened. He walked into the audition wearing glasses and didn't bother to take them off. He wasn't trying to look like a typical action star, he was just himself. That honesty impressed the producers. They weren't looking for another gunslinging hero, they wanted someone real. Anderson got the part. He had no stunt training, but he convinced them to let him do most of his own stunts anyway, about 70%. He hated guns in real life, and so did MacGyver, which made the role a perfect fit. The show became an instant hit. From 1985 to 1992, MacGyver ran for 139 episodes and turned Anderson into a television legend. By 1990, he was earning $1 million per season, and later, he negotiated producer credits, which meant he also got a cut from syndication. The show was everywhere. Parents loved that it avoided violence, kids loved the creativity, and the word MacGyver even became a verb. In 2006, more than a decade after the show ended, he brought the character back in a Super Bowl ad, proving just how deeply the role had embedded itself in popular culture. But the success came at a steep price. In 1987, while filming a running scene, Anderson stepped into a hidden hole and seriously injured his back. His disc exploded, sending pain shooting down his leg. For over a year, he filmed in agony, swallowing painkillers and refusing to use stunt doubles. Eventually, he needed surgery, but the damage never fully healed. On top of that, by 1991, exhaustion caught up with him. He collapsed on set, fainting from stress, dehydration, and burnout. Doctors told him his body was functioning at only 20%. He begged the studio to release him, but they threatened to sue him for $18 million if he quit. He was trapped, forced to keep going even though the show was consuming his entire life. In 1997, when Richard Dean Anderson signed on to star in Stargate SG-1, he shocked MGM by making an unusual demand. He wanted a 3-day workweek. Fridays through Sundays were off-limits because he wanted to be home with his newborn daughter, Wiley. At first, the producers couldn't believe it. Restructuring an entire production schedule around one actor seemed crazy. But Anderson was coming off MacGyver, one of the biggest shows of its time, and his name alone could draw millions of viewers. MGM gave in. Anderson earned $100,000 per episode while only working part-time, and that deal lasted all 10 seasons. He appeared in 173 of the show's 214 episodes, and by 2001, his pay had doubled to $200,000 per episode, $4.4 million per season. Meanwhile, the show was pulling in millions of viewers weekly and earning over $100 million internationally in syndication deals. Fan conventions even paid Anderson and co-star Amanda tapping up to $50,000 just to appear together. Through all his career highs, Richard Dean Anderson always carried the scars of what fame had cost him. He had given his body, his health, and years of his life to roles that made him a household name. But behind the success was pain, exhaustion, and an unspoken wound from his MacGyver years that no one truly knew about. When he finally stepped away from Hollywood in 2013, people couldn't understand why. But for Anderson, the choice wasn't about money or fame, it was about survival, peace, and reclaiming the life he had sacrificed to the industry. Richard Dean Anderson became a household name because of his natural charm, his clever humor, and his ability to make his characters feel real. Fans loved him for more than just the roles he played. They loved him because so many of his most iconic lines weren't even in the script. On the set of Stargate SG-1, he would often improvise, adding sarcastic one-liners that felt effortless but gave his character Jack O'Neill a unique personality. Over the course of 10 seasons, Anderson earned more than $30 million just from that show. That didn't even include the reruns and residuals, which still bring in money to this day. But behind the success, not everything was smooth. In 2004, during the filming of Season 8, Anderson faced a life-changing moment. It happened during what should have been a simple running scene. He stepped down wrong, his knee twisted sharply, and the ligaments tore. The pain was instant and severe. He needed surgery, followed by months of painful rehab. Doctors gave him a harsh warning: if he kept doing physically demanding scenes, he risked losing his ability to walk properly. Instead of removing him from the show entirely, the producers made a creative decision. They promoted his character to Brigadier General, which meant he could spend most of his time behind a desk instead of in action sequences. His fight scenes and stunts were cut down by more than half. Fans noticed that O'Neill wasn't as active anymore, but they didn't know the truth behind it until years later. Anderson still walks with a slight limp as a reminder of that injury. His treatment cost more than $200,000, though most of it was covered by insurance. That moment became a turning point in his career, and he never accepted another physically demanding role again. Even while dealing with challenges, Anderson pushed his creativity. That same year, he directed one of the most memorable episodes of the series, Double Jeopardy. What was supposed to be a typical sci-fi adventure became something more unique under his direction. Anderson had a background in hockey, having played the sport for 15 years, and he used that experience to choreograph the alien battle scenes. He studied NHL game tapes, sketched out strategies, and designed fights like they were hockey plays on ice. His perfectionism came at a cost. The episode went $300,000 over budget, and one fight scene had to be reshot 47 times. The stunt coordinator eventually quit out of frustration, but Anderson's obsession with getting it right never wavered. He even practiced fight sequences with the stunt team during lunch breaks. In the end, his hard work paid off. The episode drew 3.1 million viewers and became the highest rated of the season. Despite this success, Anderson was battling something darker behind the scenes. In 2001, the same year he won the Saturn Award for Best Actor, he was secretly struggling with severe burnout. His schedule looked easy on paper, with only a 3-day workweek. But those 3 days were brutal, beginning at 5 in the morning and ending around 7 at night. There were no real breaks, and the pressure weighed heavily on him. He confided to his co-star Michael Shanks that the stress was destroying his health. He couldn't sleep without pills, and he was drinking 8 to 10 cups of coffee a day just to keep moving. On stage, fans saw a smiling, energetic actor, but backstage makeup artists had to cover the deep circles under his eyes. He started seeing a therapist twice a week and even considered quitting the show after season 7. His breaking point came when he actually fell asleep during a live interview. MGM stepped in, hiring him a personal assistant and reducing his publicity workload by half. Few people knew about this struggle at the time, with Amanda Tapping being one of the only co-stars aware of his therapy sessions. Anderson was never afraid to take risks with his career. In 1992, he surprised audiences by starring in a CBS thriller called Through the Eyes of a Killer. The film shocked fans who were used to seeing him as a heroic figure. Instead, he played Ray Baleno, a contractor who becomes a dangerous stalker after an affair. When the woman he's obsessed with tries to leave, he refuses to let go. The movie was dark and disturbing, far from the clever and kind MacGyver image people knew. While the film only earned moderate ratings, it proved Anderson's willingness to step outside his comfort zone and take on roles that challenged him. His ability to laugh at himself also made him beloved. In 2006, he appeared as himself in The Simpsons episode Kiss Kiss Bang Bangalore. Written by Dan Castellaneta, the voice of Homer Simpson, the episode poked fun at Anderson's career and even his most famous role. In the story, Patty and Selma, the sisters obsessed with MacGyver, kidnap Anderson. Instead of hating the situation, he starts enjoying the stunts and keeps asking them to kidnap him again with new challenges. The humor was sharp, and Anderson's willingness to make fun of himself showed fans a completely different side of him. While his career kept fans entertained, Anderson's personal life was just as fascinating. For years, he had been known as the actor who wouldn't settle down. In 1992, he briefly dated East German figure skating champion Katharina Witt, one of the most famous athletes in the world at the time. Their relationship lasted only 2 months before collapsing under the weight of media attention. Before that, his most stable relationship had been with actress Sailor Ward in the 1980s. They were together for 3 years, living like a couple without being married. Anderson later admitted that marriage scared him, even though he considered their time together beautiful. Afterward, he dated Terry Hatcher from 1991 to 1993, but again, it ended without long-term commitment. Everything changed in 1996 when he met April Prose, a wardrobe stylist with no ties to celebrity life. Unlike his past relationships, this one became something deeper. They stayed together for 7 years, and on August 2, 1998, Anderson became a father when their daughter, Wiley Quinn Anna Rose Anderson, was born. He was 48 years old and had never married, but now he was responsible for something bigger than himself. The moment of Wiley's birth was terrifying. She didn't breathe right away, and Anderson stood frozen as doctors rushed to save her. When she finally cried, relief overwhelmed him, and he broke down in tears. He later said it was the most powerful moment of his life. From that day forward, everything revolved around his daughter. When Anderson and April separated in 2003, there was no bitterness. Anderson simply focused on being the best father he could be. He embraced single parenthood fully, handling everything from feedings to school drop-offs. By 2017, even in his late 60s, he was still personally driving Wiley to school every day. Acting had taken a back seat. The man who had once been one of Hollywood's most desirable bachelors had transformed into a quiet, dedicated father who preferred life on his Malibu farm to red carpets. His love for his daughter influenced every decision he made afterward. In 2013, he shocked the entertainment world by walking away from the industry completely. At 63, with offers still pouring in, he turned his back on Hollywood. Between 2023 and 2025, he refused more than $23 million worth of offers. Netflix wanted him for a $15 million documentary about his life. Disney offered $5 million for a Stargate revival. Paramount offered $3 million for a MacGyver reboot appearance. Anderson said no to all of them. A major news outlet described him as the actor who has turned down more money, more fame, and more opportunities than anyone else in Hollywood history. But for Anderson, the decision was simple. He didn't want fake nostalgia or hollow fame. He only wanted authenticity, and more importantly, he wanted to be there for his daughter. By May 2025, at a fan convention in London, Anderson revealed just how strongly he felt about Hollywood. For the first time, he openly called it a soul-killing machine that cared only about money, not people. Fans were stunned because he had always been polite and reserved in public. That day, though, he spoke with honesty, and people cried while listening to him. He wasn't selling stardom anymore. He was simply sharing his truth. Now, at 75, Richard Dean Anderson lives a quiet life in Malibu. His net worth is estimated at $30 million, with his home valued at nearly $10 million. But he doesn't chase luxury. Instead, he dedicates his time to causes he believes in. He serves on the advisory board of the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society, fighting against illegal whaling. He supports environmental groups and youth programs. He only attends a few fan events each year, choosing peace over the spotlight. For Anderson, retirement wasn't about escaping. It was about being present, living authentically, and above all, being a father before being a star.